I'm Not Much 23,
And I'm ChoasAssassin.
and this is Gamer Experience.
Gamer Experience. Today we have a special guest with us, Lawful Goodwill, also known as Les, memory serves.
That's correct.
Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself so our viewers know who you are.
Well, I am a extraordinarily small-time D&D content creator. I've been making items for D&D games for a few months. Started on Twitter, moved to TikTok, Instagram, etc., and just basically having a marginally good time doing so.
Yeah, I've seen a few of your things. I believe, like I said beforehand, one of my favorite ones is a crank that recharges magic items. I really do like the idea of that item. And what are some of the items that you've made that are your favorite, out of curiosity?
The ones that come to mind recently include an iron whale.
An iron whale.
Yes. So the item is, roughly a foot in length. But once you activate the item, it transforms into a full-size blue whale. And with successful group animal handling checks, is intended to give you a swimming speed to traverse long distances.
You could ride on the back of the whale.
Precisely. Of course, if you failed those animal handling checks, you might be riding inside the whale.
No, blue whales can't eat people due to how their teeth are.
The biological ones are certainly designed to only ingest krill and similar organisms, but we are dealing with magic. So
Yeah.
Screw it. It's a sperm whale the size of a blue whale. That's just terrifying to think about. A sperm whale the size of a blue whale. I don't want to go into that ocean. I'm sorry.
No.
At that point, they could take on a kraken. I like this idea.
But real quick, what is the premise of Lawful Goodwill?
As a quick premise, it is a fantasy secondhand store for magic items. It was a spin-off from the one and only D&D campaign that I was a member of, which was set in a fantasy home improvement store known as the Gnome Depot.
I've seen that on Twitter as well.
Yeah, the DM who ran it, and also the author and creator of the content under the same name, has been active for about a couple years, and last spring sent out an open call for players to play in an RPG set in the store.
As employees?
So as an employee, as associates. So we would help customers or avoid customers, depending.
I'm sorry. I don't play tabletop to go to work. I play tabletop to avoid work. Hey, I got this great campaign idea. Remember how you're an employee at this store? How about we go and make you an employee at another store? And that's the campaign. I don't want to help customers. I already help customers at work. What makes you think I want to do it here?
Most of our activity was in fact avoiding customers.
That's because nobody wants to. I mean, if you don't have a job, then that's great. But if you have a job, especially dealing with customers, the last thing you want to do is go home, play a fantasy game where you have to help customers. At the same time, if I was a caster, can I just, kill the customer? They annoy me. Is that a possibility? Can I just fireball the store?
Depending on the aisle, that may be appropriate. But I believe that was frowned on. Although that's not to say there weren't fireballs that were sent in various points in time.
Actually, knowing my luck, I'd do more evil things than just fireball. Like, innervation. Or, for the exceptional few customers I've had, Phantasmal Killer. I really dislike customers.
As did we in the game.
Yeah.
Although we found ourselves needing to help them a little when somebody had the bright idea of associating level advancement with customer feedback cards.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I feel bad for y'all, because if y'all had a bard, that bard slept with a lot of customers and got a lot of good feedback.
Oddly enough,
until the child support came.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we only had one bard in the party, and yeah, he was only sleeping with one of the other associates, so it wasn't a lot of associate customer activity.
I just can't see how you would have fun pretending to be an associate in a fantasy game. Like, I really can't.
Well, most of the fun came from the different aisles in the store. Each aisle was associated to either a different plane or a specific location, or in some cases, a point in a fantasy past. So we primarily worked on aisle 13, which was associated with the realm of limbo.
Okay, then.
So occasionally we would have to go down the aisle, traverse into limbo, do some things.
Did you ever have, like, thieves you had to take out? I mean, I could see where you could kind of make it to where there's at least some combat.
Most of the combat we had was with what turned out to be the janitorial staff because they hired gelatinous cubes to clean the store.
I mean, if you want something clean, that's the way to go.
That is the way to go.
And the janitors lost control sometimes?
Well, no, they were the janitors.
Oh.
Yeah. But it turns out we actually had an infestation from one of our rivals, and it was their cubes that were coming in.
Oh.
Yeah, the store across the street had its rival from hundreds of years of iCobalt.
I'm trying to figure out what the real world application for that one would be.
It was based on IKEA, right
Ah.
down to the Swedish meatballs.
Did they contain horse meat?
I think it was mostly Umber Hulks.
Ah.
No, I don't believe I ever had any. Well, my character had any.
Oh.
But given that environment where there was the Gnome Depot and iCobalt, thoughts started occurring with the group of, well, what else is in this strip mall where these stores are? And the concept of Lawful Goodwill came to my mind.
That's actually kind of cool. So tell us, like, the layout of your store then. Is it similar to like it was at the Gnome Depot where different aisles led to different locations?
Oh no, it's more of your traditional secondhand store with shelving and clothing racks. It's nothing terribly interesting from that perspective. We are gathering seemingly a lot of jewelry of late, so we may have to expand that section of the store just to keep housing of those materials. A lot of brooches for some reason.
See, now that makes me think of like having a defective aisle where items somewhat work but are somewhat defective as well.
Yeah.
Like a cloak that instead of it making you invisible, it makes you translucent and appear to be incorporeal.
That would work very well.
I mean, with a decent, was it for D&D? It's what is it disguise, deception, or bluff? I don't.
Well, there is disguise, self. There's certainly deception and stealth.
No, because at that point you could run that and pretend to hunt somebody. I
Quite true.
mean, that's how I could see it. I mean, basically bullshit your way through the fact of, I'm actually a ghost. It's not that I'm wearing a defective cloak that was supposed to make me invisible. So I mean, it could be entertaining.
I agree.
Defective magic items.
One thing we like to ask all our guests, though, is what is your overall gaming background? Both tabletop
I'm sorry that. Oh, my tabletop experience and such.
and video games. Yeah.
Certainly. Well, started primarily started reading AD&D First Edition and the Beckme sets when they came out. I regrettably didn't have a lot of friends in that time that were like-minded, so I didn't get to play a lot, but I read a lot of the materials. Created a lot of characters, but never played them.
That's what I do. I make characters because they're fun ideas, and then I never have a chance to play at least 3/4 of them.
Yeah.
But you make characters to break certain aspects, skills.
I do not.
Bullshit.
just because I have an archer that is designed to hit his mark and never miss, and just happens to be one of my highest damaging characters, or the fact that I have a bird that I decided, hey, how paranoid would somebody actually be with heightened senses and everything, and broke perception to the point that not even invisible things, have a chance of, not going against it. I don't know what you're talking about.
Bullshit! Bullshit!
I make characters for shenanigans. And one of my newest ones, I'm really excited about this because of how rulings work. Go ahead, piss off the forest. The person who speaks for the trees got a bullet for you. They can't wear metal armor. Nowhere does it say they can't use guns. Druid's got a gun. And not only is it a druid, it's a leshy. So it looks harmless, but it's going to pull out a pistol and shoot you. Why? Because druid's got a gun, and you've upset the forest.
Like
and the Lorax is on vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, I had a Lorax Artificer in mind.
It's a leaf leshy, so basically kind of like a construct made of leaves.
Sure.
Of the leaf order of the druids, so they're really into nature. And then I'm going to be multi-classing into Gunslinger, which will give me access to guns.
Gunpowder is a natural substance.
Yeah, sure. Part of the background is more of a war took place, and because of the war, his home got cut and burned down. And so as he was running around just trying to save people because he was nice, he kept getting attacked by both sides because he was healing both sides. He's a battlefield medic.
Sorry, I just bumped my mic.
And so he's kind of upset that people would hurt a medic. So since people were trying to hurt him, he's going to go around and hurt others for destroying his home. So that's kind of the premise. But the actual character itself, he's going to be using a firearm. I don't know how good he's going to be with it, but he runs around and will be a medic for his allies and just kind of run around the battlefield, not necessarily trying to get hit. His spells literally allow him to move even faster. So he'll cast it on himself and then rush to an ally. So he's not a primary medic. He's a backup medic, but he's a heavily support class that just happens to be able to use guns and can be effective in combat. But I haven't gotten to play them yet.
Fun play. Yeah. Sounds like it'd be fun.
I mean, how else are you just going to roam around the battlefield? Literally, every round he's going to be moving to a different location. He doesn't like staying in the same place for too long. But I'm going to give him like stealth, things like that. So if he's in the forest, you're in trouble. Because he'll turn into like some Rambo leshy that'll just fuck your shit. Might throw that in my home game whenever I do it.
A leaf druid that doesn't want to be rooted down.
Exactly. He wants to protect all of the rest of the forest. His got burned and chopped down because of a war. He's heavily against war. But when I told like my father about that, which at some point I would love to get my father on the podcast.
Me too.
That would be a fun podcast. He was thinking more of like a Rambo kind of plant, and I kind of liked that idea. I'm more curious, like, could I, if I made a home game, could I make a Lawful Goodwill there?
Why, certainly.
I would think. I thank you. I just really like the idea of just like kind of like a second-hand, off-the-wall magic shop.
Exactly.
Now, where do the proceeds from Lawful Goodwill go?
We don't charge very much. I think the most expensive item that I recall for sales in the 3 gold range. Most everything is between 3 and 7 silver pieces. So to be honest, there's not a lot of proceeds.
Got it.
And the work to decurse the items that are brought in, because most of the items are brought in by others, just to sell them as one does in a store like this. So there's a lot of expenses in just removing the curses and healing the people that are testing things. So, at some point we may actually turn a profit.
Just not yet.
But just not yet.
How many rogues do you have come in to donate items for their tax return?
Most of the rogues that I recall coming in Uh, Usually they're bringing in weaponry, which makes sense. I mean, there's the occasional unneeded cloak, but the weapons we actually actually exchange over to a sister store that we have this kind of an arrangement with. Lawful Goodwill does not, strictly speaking, deal with weapons.
No.
That's just out of our range. There are things that do terrible effects on people if one were to use them on them, but strictly speaking, no weaponry. So we will give those over to the Salvation Armory.
I love that. So is that where you take all the armor as well, or just the weapons?
Armor usually goes to AC Hardware.
Okay, I gotta have a list of like all the store names because that's awesome. AC Hardware. Oh, that's where you get your armor.
Exactly.
Oh, weapons. Oh, you Salvation Armory. What
Yes.
about some magic items? Lawful Goodwill has some. Is there any other stores that sell magical items?
Strictly speaking, there is a store for. They're kind of branching out between their own various lines of summoning stones, but recently added big, um, like big screen stones for like downtime to watch programming. That'd be Horizon.
I got a store idea that just popped in my head.
Let's hear it.
Arcane Jewelry. Like one of the jewelry stores that they just mainly sell jewelry, like rings and stuff.
Sure.
I don't know why that popped into my head. I think it had something to do with the fact that I was thinking just like K Jewelers, Arcane. Hey, that works.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a play on words, and I really kind of like that idea. Just have a random strip mall show up that has all these off the wall store names. Curious what Walmart's would be.
In sort of the circle of folks with the Dome Depot campaign, generally that is a store for zombies supplies called Thrall Mart.
Thrall Mart. That I like.
But of course, your necromancers may have too much undead individuals. So, you need to store your extras in unlife storage.
Yeah.
But of course, with all these stores opening up, there of course needed to be a real estate company. In walks, or should I say trots, Centauri 21.
So there's the Gnome Depot, Lawful Goodwill, AC Hardware, the Salvation Armory, Thrall Mart, iCobold, Arcade Jewelers, and of course for real estate there's Centauri 21.
Correct.
Did I miss any?
Yes. The telecom company was Verizon.
Oh, Verizon.
Yeah, it was founded by a group of Haragons, rabbit folk, and of course their very famous catchphrase, "Can you hear me now?"
So where do you get like your books and stuff?
My books, like just the supplies, you mean?
The bookstore. I mean, we have all these other stores. What's the
Bards and
bookstore?
Noble. Sorry, Bards and Noble.
Bards and Nobles?
Yes.
Got it.
Wow, have enough stores for a suburban commercial development area.
Now I'm curious, like for D&D, I know like artificers, they'd probably go to the equivalent for us would be Best Buy, but what would the artificer store be?
That's a good question.
It is. I can't think of anything specific for artificers, but if for craft, I didn't remember one other crafting store that was part of our campaign was Gobby Lobby. It was run by goblins. Gobby Lobby.
That's awesome. Who came up with all of these different store names?
They just sort of spawned on their own, just out of happenstance. I was trying to trace back.
We were good at making puns. Y'all are taking and just making puns of real stores, and I love that idea. I love the concept of that.
It made for just extra color in the campaign.
This is a Gamer Experience mid-roll. If you want to send us any comments or character stories, like using items bought from Lawful Goodwill, you can send them to gamerexperience@gmail.com. That's all lowercase, GamerSperince@gmail.com. Again, that's Golf, Alpha, Mike, Echo, Romeo, Sierra, Papa, Echo, Romeo, India, Echo, November, Charlie, Echo, @gmail.com, as in Google's mail service. I've also opened our Twitter messages for comments and stories @GamerSperience. If you do submit a character story, include how you want us to address you, or if, the game system, and please limit the story to about 5 speaking minutes, which with a normal speaking speed is between 750 and 875 words, as well as a statement permitting us to use your story or comment on the podcast. Find our older episodes on YouTube on the GamerSperience podcast channel. Also, follow Lawful Goodwill on Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok for secondhand items to use in your games. Now, back to the episode.
And of course, off campaign, just, the whole, the various media that I've been, putting out since May, on Twitter. Originally was doing, actually I have to back up a bit. There was an item that was in the Gnome Depot called Corrective Fluid. Its purpose allowed you to change one letter of a spell name, and by doing so, allow you to recreate a brand new spell around that new name.
Oh, like the Ring of the Grammarian.
Yes.
So we change
So
one letter of a spell.
It changes the whole spell. So one of my personal favorites, and one that actually got used in campaign, was when our wizard turned Chromatic Orb into Chromatic Orc.
Okay, then.
And then cast that spell on our half-orc barbarian, allowing them to do varying types of damage when they hit.
That's actually kind of cool. I like that concept. But that takes some off-the-wall thinking. Like, I'm trying to think of, okay, if I were to take a spell and change a letter of it, what could I do with it?
I've pondered that a lot, actually. So much so that at one point I wrote a Python program with a spell list and had it change one letter programmatically and then spit out anything that made English words.
You actually made a program for that?
Yes.
Wow. What were some of the results? I'm curious now.
Let's see if I have anything quickly available. I did keep track in a spreadsheet. There we go. So let's see, under dank spells, yes. See, the Crown of Dadness.
The Crown of what?
Dadness.
Dadness.
Yes, so you end up...
Instead of madness, dadness?
Correct. And so if they fail a wisdom save, they have to tell dad jokes.
It's a transmutation thing. Not only does your strength drop, you now have a beer gut and are only allowed to speak in actual dad jokes, which only you find funny.
Correct.
Because you have to have a dad bod.
Yes.
I love that.
Another was Poll the Dead, which also got used in campaign.
Poll.
Yes. So twisting toll to pole, our divination wizard was able to ask yes/no questions of a corpse for like 10 minutes. It's a little broken. It probably needs some workshopping to tune that down a bit. But it was so much better than the usual 5 questions you get from Speak with Dead.
Yeah. But with Speak with Dead, I believe you can ask for a little more information, more so than just yes or no questions.
That is correct. So that kind of balanced it out a bit.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I see. You pull the dead. Not only do you get the answer from one dead, but any undead within a certain radius.
Exactly.
Also gets the question, as you are asking a poll, and polls typically take a while.
They do. They do indeed. Let's see. Another was Yeast Sense, which allowed you to find various taverns.
Yeast. I like that.
I know one just off the top of my head from a Pathfinder spell. Changed daylight to gay light. Don't know what that would do, but
No, I got one better. Pay light.
for followers of Callistria?
So instead of it casting a light spell that's bright, it casts money at you.
Oh no, that'd be for followers of Abadar.
Yeah.
I was thinking more like a red light. But yours fits a lot better.
Instead of fireball, fire bell.
Yes.
You summon a bell that when rings, anybody who can hear it takes fire damage.
Make that as part of a rock show and play a certain song and ring it 13 times. You won't have an audience anymore.
It'd only be like a D6. Because it's anybody who's in auditory range, which would include yourself.
True.
For whom the bell tolls.
Ooh, here's one that definitely is not rather unsettling. Aura of Lice.
Oh god. No, do not cast that spell. Please do not. Now, my curiosity. Let's take the fact that you've changed these spells. So now they're spells. Could you use that oil on those ones to change a letter from them?
I would think so, yes.
So, what's the origins of the aura of lice? Aura of life?
Yes.
So let's take the aura of life, turn it to aura of lice, and then turn that spell into aura of mice.
Exactly what I was thinking. A la Ratcatcher 2 from the second Suicide Squad.
I was thinking the Rat King.
That works.
What was it? I don't remember. I don't remember if it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or if it was something from DC or Marvel. I don't remember.
Yeah, it rings a very small bell, but not enough.
I think it's a Batman. I think he's a Batman villain.
That seems reasonable.
If we're gonna be talking about some lunatic that controls animals, well, typically it's Batman's villains. Because let's be honest, he's the only one that has animal affinity for enemies. I can't think of anybody other than maybe Spider-Man, who has the Rhino, Scorpion,
Vulture,
Doc Ock.
I think that's. I wouldn't say Doc Ock's actually an octopus. And honestly, Doc Ock isn't really the villain. It's the fact that he got corrupted with his arms. I mean, he does turn into is it the Superior Spider-Man or the Iron Spider-Man? I don't remember which. After in one of the storylines, he kills Peter Parker, absorbs all of his memories, and understands why he's a superhero, and decides to, carry on the mantle.
I don't really keep up with Marvel or DC or superheroes that much.
I do because, I enjoy it. Well, probably one of my favorite superheroes would probably be Batman, just for the sheer fact of he's a very intellectual superhero. Of all of them, he's just a normal dude that just happens to have a shitload of money that allowed him to, get all this specialized training, but still.
Wealth is his superpower.
There you go.
Same as
I believe he said so much in what am I thinking of? Dawn of Justice, when he picked up Barry Allen in his car, said, Barry asked, "What's your superpower?" He says, "I'm rich."
Yeah. I mean, so is Tony Stark.
Rich and trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking, what other spells could there be?
See, looking down the list, we turned Mage Hand into Rage Hand to allow you to give somebody the rage feature of barbarians at a distance.
Nice.
That'd be useful.
Instead of
sort
the
of
spell,
slap them across the face.
Instead of the spell Rage, you could always throw like Cage or something like that.
True. Let's see, Firebolo was a nice twist on Firebolt, just to give it a more flair.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a considerable amount of them. I'm looking through my documentation. I think I spent like 3 or 4 months doing that, and then someone had the thought, you don't have to just change a letter. Why don't you just take one out? I'm like, okay.
Changing a letter from
just removing it completely
there to not being a letter would work. Yeah.
Yeah, just effectively white out. So the Bacon of Hope.
Bacon of Hope. That would be the perfect thing for the Waffle God. That's a spell for the Waffle God now. Bacon of Hope.
Okay, now you have to explain what the Waffle God is.
So, for us, as shits and giggles, my other half Elfness, she's been on here once to sub for me after I had a tooth taken out. Was asked what her deity was going to be for her character, and she said waffles, and it kind of made a running joke of, well, you can't do that. And then we thought about it, it's like, oh, well, why not? So the backstory is, in Pathfinder, you can become a deity if you complete the quest for the Starstone. Okay. And an adventurer went to do it. That morning, he made himself a breakfast, but he didn't eat his waffles. He just put it in his bag. Well, right before he gets to the stone, he ends up getting hit by something and dying, but the waffle falls out of his backpack, rolls, and makes contact with the Starstone, ascending to godhood. And the tenets for the waffle god are have a good, hearty breakfast, and one of the edicts is never miss breakfast. And it is a deity. It's a neutral good deity that is all about breakfast. So having a spell like Beacon of Hope is perfect. And anytime you would cast like the grease spell, instead of it being actual grease, it's syrup.
Sure.
And
but it's literally just
that sounds amazing.
We like the idea, and so it's a joke. Just like it's a joke for the Order of the Citrus. We had there was a game where the party was trying to escape and get like prisoners or something, or refugees out of a place, but the guards were at the door trying to come in and had put holes in the wall. And one of the players was a samurai, asked, "Is there any citrus around? Like lemons?" And Jim's like, "Well, y'all are in a shop that has food, so yeah, sure. I'm going to cut the lemons and start squeezing the juices in the eyes of the guards that are, trying to look in to see what's going on." So he made them do ranged attack with the lemon juice and ended up hitting the guards in the eyes with lemon juice because that hurts.
Yes.
And so after that, he decided he didn't want to be his normal order. He wanted to be a order of citrus. So a samurai who specializes in fighting with lemons, limes, and oranges. We never actually really went in depth on that, but it's like one of those inside jokes with the people that we play.
Sure. And that's what makes the play enjoyable.
Yeah.
Is to establish that kind of a rapport and that kind of a just, the fabric of the game.
Yeah.
And the stories that come from this.
Yeah. I actually need to make a character that worships the waffle god.
I believe the waffle god's favored weapon is a frying pan?
Yep. It's a frying pan. Because there's not a waffle griddle in there. Now I want waffles.
But kind of something different. Something I've always been curious about with your videos is, where do you get the pictures of these items?
Some of them, actually, I go to actual retail stores and take pictures of shoes and nail polish and, what have you. If I see something that I can look at that and going, I can make that in a magic item. But most of the content actually comes from the Goodwill website.
That's hilarious to think about. Where do you get the ideas for the items? Oh, I look on Goodwill.
It's the obvious answer.
Well, yeah.
I know there's some things in those thrift stores that are really, really odd. It's like somebody's craft projects, like something that end up on r/DIY.
Yes.
So, some of those things are. What was the point of this? Like, I've seen some of the DIY stuff, and it's, what the fuck are y'all people thinking?
Yeah.
There's no point to this item. None.
Like casting razor blades and barbed wire into a resin toilet seat.
Okay, for like a zombie apocalypse theme bathroom, that's actually kind of cool.
Until the resin wears off.
Yeah. But what were you saying before I mentioned that?
I was saying that an item I did recently, I haven't published yet, I just did the recording, was a check writer. It was a antique check writer that I found an advertisement for. And I'm like, you could use this to make paper checks that you then have to perform a proper level deception check to get it to pass at for gold, to exchange it for gold as if it was you're cashing a check.
Oh, so
I wouldn't want to fail that check though.
Yeah. How much you want to bet a rogue's going to buy it?
why would that
Probably.
be at lawful goodwill though? That's both illegal.
That is true. That is very true. I should probably contact my counterparts at Chaotic Goodwill.
There you
Whom I-
go.
Not exactly
Whom I
chaotic
forgot
either.
about. I forgot about them earlier.
Oh, if you think about it, if you're the issue with the lawful and the chaotic spectrum is what it comes to as far as the laws. The issue with
Exactly.
that is if you have enough drive to think and willpower as far as this is wrong, technically by your moral standards, that also determines whether or not something is lawful or not. If you are lawfully trying to fuck over the rich. Like if you're going to like a town that doesn't help the poor and you're cashing these fraudulent checks, to you that could be a lawful act of taking money from the rich and trying to give it to the poor. Now in their eyes that's not lawful, that's evil, but it's all dependent on how you look at it as well.
True. Doing good
Because
through
in
ungood
one
things.
town, in one place, murder's legal, especially if they're of certain races. But in most other towns, that's not allowed. That's illegal. So it also has to be
True.
dependent on, okay, where at? And that's something I don't think a lot of people really realize in most fantasy games, especially like D&D and Pathfinder. Different towns have different laws. What's legal in one town might not be legal in another. I had this issue brought up where if you worshipped certain deities, you were to be executed. One of my characters happened to follow one of those deities.
Oh.
So I literally had to hide all of my holy symbols. I was literally less helpful than a paladin who has his powers revoked. I couldn't even be a fighter. I couldn't do any of my spells or anything.
Sure.
Because that wasn't allowed.
Yeah, your practice was forbidden.
However, I loved what happened at the end of that one because we ended up having to run from the police basically because we were supposed to be incognito, and in the game we're kind of found out by, hey, wait a minute, these people aren't supposed to be here, catch them, lock them up. Big chase scene at the end. Well, in one of the things there's a group of people and we have to make all these checks to get through this giant group of people that are at this soup kitchen. My character's crazy. So what he did is I looked at the GM and was like, my deity is illegal, correct? And they're like, yeah. Okay, and the clergymen of this town are working the soup kitchen, correct? Yeah. We're being chased by the guards, right? Yeah. I'm gonna go push myself up to the front of the line because it's, a huge group of people fighting to get the food. I'm going to present my holy symbol and I'm going to channel and scream, feel my deity's love. Everybody at the table looked at me. They're like, oh no. It just that, oh no, this is not going to end well. And the GM just looks and just like, why? We're trying to get away. What's going to cause more chaos? A negative channeling cleric walking up to a clergyman that knows that holy symbol, channeling to hurt everybody within 30 feet, causing mass panic of what just happened to hurt me. And so he allowed it. I channeled mass panic. For the rest of the chase, where are we? Groups of large amounts of people. I burned through all of my channels.
Wow.
In the one escape, just running around, channel to harm. My character's insane. He follows a wonderful deity, in my opinion. In Pathfinder, if you ever get a chance, as I believe you said you were going to be looking into more Pathfinder rules, look up the deity Zon Kuthon.
Okay.
I think the best one was the fact of when there was a parade going through the town and I decided to channel around 3 horses who then went wild. We could have failed the last 4 checks hardcore and the guards still would not have caught us. By the time we were leaving town, they were just getting through the mass panic of the food kitchen. Because, I loved that.
Yeah. And speaking of leaving town, regrettably, I have a prior engagement that I need to attend to in a few moments.
Oh,
So
well, thank you for joining us at least.
Yes.
you're very welcome.
Before you leave, what are all of the things you are on so our listeners can be told of more of what you got as far as
I
so
am
they can check you out?
certainly. I am on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Reddit, all under the same moniker of Lawful Goodwill. And for those who may be interested in receiving PDFs of items to be printed and used in your in-home campaigns, that address at Gmail accepts playtest individuals. Currently
I
have 5
might
people on that list.
I might send you an email trying to get some of those magic items because that I really like the idea of that.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. And if anything, I can send you some ideas because I come up with random ideas all the time. Maybe have a defective item department for your secondhand store.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank
Are we
you
going
so
to be
much.
calling it here or are we going to continue talking? Not much.
I think we're going to call it here.
All right. Well, I'm Chaos Assassin.
I'm Not Much 23.
Thank you for joining us, Lawful Goodwill. And this
Was Gamer Experience.
Gamer Experience. We invite you to have your own Gamer Experience.